Here on the channel, I've covered every Batman movie ever made, from animation to live action, which is why today's topic has been a long time coming. So join me in this journey through the world of Batman fan films. And today we'll be taking a look specifically at what I consider some of the best of the genre. We're talking about movies made for Batman fans, by Batman fans. And if you guys enjoy this video, maybe we'll do a part 2. Or 3, or 10. There's really a lot of these things. This is a pretty deep pool to jump into. Or maybe we'll even look at some of the worst Batman fan films, which I have a long list for that one too. But no matter what the case, just remember, if you like what you see here in this video, check out the full movies for yourselves. I will be posting the links to each one in the comment section below, and I hope you guys enjoy them as much as I do. With that being said, let's begin. One of my personal favorite fan films is less of a movie and more of an extended trailer for a movie that was never made. Kinda like a proof of concept. So think what those AI trailers do today, except it doesn't suck, and it has a whole lot of heart to it. I'm talking about the project simply titled Grayson. The aesthetic in part feels like it was pulled out of the 60s show, or maybe the Golden Age comics, but it is definitely a much more grim telling of the tale. The stakes are a little bit higher than they would be back then. This is a would-be movie that would have followed Dick Grayson following the death of his father figure and mentor, Batman. This project included the likes of Superman, Wonder Woman, Batgirl, and all of Batman's greatest rogues. Now, I think movie audiences today are a little bit spoiled with how much they get to see their favorite superheroes share the screen together, but this was not a thing when I was younger. When this came out, this would only happen in the comic books, or maybe if you were lucky in some of the animated shows, but never in live action. So seeing these superheroes stand side by side and collide and clash felt like a dream come true. It even uses elements and canon from the classic comics. There are scenes that are plucked straight out of The Killing Joke, and some of the actors portraying these characters look like they were pulled straight off of an Alex Ross cover. This is such a beautiful blend of all things Batman, and in such a short runtime, it managed to tell its own story while utilizing famous story beats from famous comics. For so many years, this was my go-to, what I would show any fan that I knew that didn't know about this. And I am a little embarrassed to admit that I'd spend a couple of years trying to track down the movie, only to find out that this was the entire presentation. And I was only mildly disappointed by that because the presentation is pretty great on its own. Sure, it's not a full-fledged movie, but it's basically the spark notes of what would be a superhero epic. And between you and me, I put this one couple-minute video over a lot of the cinematic connected universes that we see today. It is seriously great, and just under 6 minutes long, it's something well worth a watch for any Batman fan. The behind the scenes is equally fascinating, when you realize how they managed to make all of this. Let's just say they made a little go a long way. I cannot sing the praises of this one enough. It is a personal favorite of mine, and I highly suggest anybody watching this pause the video, or, wait till the end, and then check it out for yourself. And I could say the same thing about the next project as well, because Batman Dead End is another short movie that clocks in about only around 8 minutes or so. And if Grayson felt like the coming attractions for an attraction that would never come, then Dead End feels like the first half of a movie that was never finished. Not that I'm insulting the artist or the art by any means, far from it, because I say this with no hyperbole. Batman Dead End legitimately has some of the greatest visuals in any and all Batman media. How is it possible that after all these years later, big studios still can't capture what this one fan on a significantly smaller budget managed to? I mean, look at this. Tim Burton, eat your heart out. This is comic Batman in real time. From the aura to the aesthetic, all of this is Batman. And to everyone saying that the traditional gray bodysuit wouldn't work in a movie, well, here it is in a movie. Working. Also, the white eyes? Perfection. This was made all the way back in 2003, and still over 20 years later, we have never gotten it this right on the big screen. All of this was achieved by limited means comparatively, but man oh man, did it achieve. Seriously, just by looks alone, this movie is essential viewing for Batman fans. It needs to be seen to be believed, And just in general, it just needs to be seen. Likewise for the Joker, who feels like he was plucked right out of the comics from the 90s. Red eyes, twisted grin, sickly face. He is just so grotesque in the greatest of ways. And when these two characters address each other, it feels very spot on for their relationship. And granted, I will admit, it feels spot on the nose, maybe a little heavy-handed, in my opinion, but it was still at the time the truest depiction of their dynamic ever put to screen. Maybe even still to this day. And while I'm in the midst of trying to gush over how perfect they emulated the comics that they were based on, staying true to the spirit of the source to a T, that's when things take a shocking turn. Because the Joker is then taken away by a xenomorph. And if that's not enough of a crossover for you, things get even more out of hand when the Predator shows up. That's right, this went from Batman vs. Joker to Batman vs. Alien vs. Predator, which is also something that has happened in the comics a couple times since then. This is honestly incredible, and it makes a lot of other fan films pale in comparison. Though rumor has it originally, Mark Hamill was approached to reprise his role as the Joker, and Sylvester Stallone was in talks to play Batman in this 8-minute fan film. Apparently both dropped out or didn't accept in fear of being sued by Warner Brothers, which is a very realistic fear. When a lot of people think of Batman, I think a lot of people my age, maybe a couple years older or younger, give or take, think of the Dark Knight films. I know when they came out, they kind of completely revitalized the Batman brand, which is why back in the day, Blinky Productions released an entire series set in the Dark Knight universe, one that followed their version of the Joker and looked at what a Harley Quinn in that universe might look like, which is probably why it was some of the brand's most viral fan flicks at the time. They were definitely capitalizing on a craze, and boy did they have a run with it, as there's not 1, 2, 3, but several installments. And they had a whole lot of fun with the franchise. I will say, if I had to say any negatives, though it's not really a full-blown negative, it does feel a little overly indulgent in its own edginess at times. But I can also see how this version of the character would inspire that. I actually followed this series religiously when it came out. These episodes see Harleen spiral into Harley Quinn, going deeper and deeper down a rabbit hole she'll never be able to escape. It also gave us a look at some of the other characters that didn't make it into the franchise, like what the Dark Knight version of the Penguin, Poison Ivy, Riddler, and even Superman might look like. It feels like a character study on the Clown Prince and Princess of Crime, and how they'd operate if there was more story to tell in the Dark Knight series. It is eerily addicting, and I don't think that I've ever watched the first episode without then binge-watching through the rest of them. In a sea of Dark Knight ripoffs and fan-made follow-ups, for me, this one stands above the rest. And I think it's mainly because it kinda took things in a different route. While still staying somewhat truthful to what came before it, it respectfully goes in its own direction. It was focused on other aspects, and it took its time to tell its own story. So, if you got the time, it's an interesting watch with multiple installments. And lastly, but not leastly here on today's video, is Patient J, the movie that put Bat in the Sun Productions on the map. One that I would still argue that to this day is maybe their greatest achievement in terms of Batman content. They've made plenty of movies since then, with bigger budgets and bigger actors stepping into roles. But I still hold this one higher than the rest. What it is a psychological deep dive into the character of the Joker. It borrows heavily and recreates a lot of major moments from the mythos, taking his origin from the Killing Joke, showcasing the character as a failed comedian turned to a life of crime as the Red Hood, and even the torturing of Barbara Gordon is referenced in passing. It also highlights the killing of Batman's pseudo-son Robin, just as he did in A Death in the Family, and Harley Quinn even gets to make a cameo, which was not always the norm for the time. What's great about all of these stories is not only is it recreating major moments from the comics, but it's doing so in an effort to give you a psychological profile of the character. He's telling these stories to professional help, a professional who's realizing that this man is far beyond his help. There's a lot of costume changes here that I can't help but applaud, which also take major designs from the comics themselves. Like when Batman and Joker first meet, Batman is wearing his first comic appearance costume. Joker later on dons a completely white suit like he did in The Dark Knight Returns. The list goes on. It's all honestly pretty great. And it's made that much better by an unforgettable Joker performance that feels at times almost too big for what it's a part of. It kinda makes me miss this version of the character because the actor was kinda shooed out of the spot so that the director could then play the part. And in my opinion, it is a major downgrade. No offense to anybody, but it's just, it ain't great. It ain't great. But this movie is. And I really think that if you're a big fan of Batman, you should absolutely check it out. I mean, that's kind of what today's video has all been about. Now, I have a lot of other fan films that I'd like to show you or kind of point you in the right direction of, but I don't know if this is necessarily something that my audience wants to see. If it is, then by all means, let's keep on going. Let's make another one of these. I'll give you another 4 or 5 and we can go from there. I mean, I have a list. It goes in no particular order, but Grayson is still number 1 for me. So if you like this video and want to see new installments praising other great Batman fan films or talking about some of the worst Batman fan films, and believe me, the worst, we got some doozies, then let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
"We'll do it another time then."
Oh, and also, if you have any recommendations that you think should have made the list, feel free to drop them. If I don't know them already, I'd love to check them out. And who knows, you and your comment might be featured here in a future video.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.